Holy cow, you guys are going to love this episode. Hey, I'm Tim Laskus, and you're listening to The Tim Laskus Show. This is episode 64. My guest today is the Jay Baer, 5-time New York Times bestselling author. But before I go into what Jay's all about, you probably already know. Let me ask you, are you wondering how to find the best and most search keywords on Google? You trying to get your website up to the top of the page? Well, Longtail Pro is the answer, because they will give you all those keywords that are going to get you back on up to the top, so that when people are searching for whatever it is your kind of genre is, you're going to come up there first, because you need to be up there. They're not going to go to page 25 and find you. You need to be on that first page at the top. And the way to get there is to use Longtail Pro. For only $25 a month, you can get about 10,000 keyword searches. That's amazing. That's going to help you. Also, if you're in charge of your own AdWords kind of program, you're going to need this, because you're going to have to stop mucking around and get real. Get the words that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. Longtail Pro. Head on over to timlaskus.com/resources and click on Longtail Pro for your discount, and get on in there. Get this program. I couldn't recommend it anymore. Another wonderful sponsor of today's show is Bluehost, and they offer hosting for WordPress sites starting at only, get this, $3.95 a month. Man, that is pretty cool. That's pretty cheap. They offer free site builders, free domain, one-click WordPress install, 24/7 customer support, which is what I always need because I always have questions. So you can get your free 7-day trial today. Head on over to timlaskus.com/resources. Click on Bluehost, and also click on Longtail Pro to get your discounts on these wonderful, wonderful, cool resources for all you entrepreneurs out there. Now, on to today's guest, who is Jay Baer. Holy cow, this episode is just packed with information. Jay spends time hanging out with Gary Vaynerchuk. How cool is that? Well, anyway, Jay's a five-time New York Times bestselling author. He's a keynote speaker. He's co-host of Social Pros Podcast, which has been named the best marketing podcast in 2015 in Content Marketing Awards. He's also the president and founder of ConvinceandConvert.com, which is named one of the fastest growing private companies in the USA. His clients include TaylorMade, Arizona State University, Pella, Hilton Worldwide, Cabela's. I love that store. I need to get in there and get some fishing equipment. But anyway, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and Cisco. Whoa, man, I'll tell you, he's a heavy hitter, a big-time player. And on his website, ConvinceandConvert.com, they've had more than 3 million visits per year. That is just incredible. Also, he was a host for 3 days at the Global IBM Conference. They had thousands in attendance, and they were just salivating. They loved it. They were hanging on to every word of his. Jay's been featured pretty much everywhere out there. It's probably easier to say where he hasn't been than where he has, but he's been on CNBC, USA Today, Ad Age, MSNBC, Fast Company Magazine, New York Times, Forbes Magazine, the Boston Globe, NPR, CNBC, and Inc. Magazine. Man, hold on, strap on. He just, goodness. Jay brings it. He brings great value, and you are going to love this episode. Let me know what you think. Enjoy.
The Tim Laskus Show, in search of entrepreneurial gold. Tim digs deep into the minds of his guests. Entertaining, down to earth, and informative. Now, here's your host, Tim Laskus.
Hey, Jay, thanks so much for being on the show. I'm super excited to have you here.
Tim, I'm delighted. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you were telling me earlier that you're quite the barbecue specialist. What is that all about? What do you know about barbecue?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a specialist, but I'm definitely a barbecue aficionado. I started it as a hobby probably 7 years ago, and got a smoker and started to smoke ribs and pork and brisket and all those kind of things. And then I actually went to barbecue school, which is the best kind of school, and became a certified barbecue judge. So I'm now allowed to judge competitive barbecue contests around the U.S., which is kind of a blast, actually.
Wow. Well, I'm coming over to your house this weekend, so fire up the grill.
I will do my best, but it's funny, what what they teach you in barbecue school is a little different than what you would do in the backyard. There's sort of a whole different kind of set of criteria when you're competing for prize money. It's an interesting subculture for sure.
You should have went to the other school, the backyard barbecue school.
That's true. They have those as well.
Hey, Jay, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself professionally. What are you currently working on?
So I own a consulting firm called Convince and Convert. We work with many of the world's most interesting brands on content marketing, social media, influencer marketing, etc. We help them turn their customers into volunteer marketers. There's 15 people in the organization. We're virtually located all around the U.S. and some outside of the U.S. So we spend a lot of time helping those brands. I spend a lot of my time personally traveling. I do 50 or 60 events per year and do a lot of keynote speaking and MC work on those same topics, content marketing and social and digital, etc. I've written 5 books, working on another one. I have a weekly podcast. My team produces multiple other weekly podcasts, and I do a twice weekly video show as well. So lots of stuff going on, many, many balls in the air all the time, which is how I like it.
My goodness, how do you stay sane doing all that stuff?
It helps having a good team for sure. They sort of keep me organized and point me in the right direction, but not a lot of free time. That's for sure.
Well, out of all those things, between writing and doing your podcast and, consulting and speaking, which one seems to be really kind of your favorite that you really enjoy the most?
Oh, speaking is my favorite. Definitely. Nobody ever gives a standing ovation to a consultant. And people don't typically give standing ovations to podcasts either, usually because they're driving. But speaking is my favorite. You just get a more direct connection to the audience. And you also really get to learn a lot about different industries, right? Last week, I was doing a conference of people who own rent-to-own furniture stores. And the week before that was a different kind of an event. The week before that was so every week is a different industry, which is a lot of fun because you learn just enough to be dangerous about a lot of different industries.
Wow, that's incredible. And you're not a newbie to marketing. You've been doing this since the very beginning, since the internet was created and
Pretty
all
much,
that.
Yeah, 93 is when I started online, so almost since the very beginning.
1990. What was the computer? I don't even remember what the computers looked like in 93.
They were huge. They were always gray, or the kind of off cream color. Really low resolution, 640 by 480 screens. All the graphics were giant. Lots of animated mailboxes, on websites, and a lot of people using AOL and Prodigy. It was a different time for sure.
Well, so they were just crap.
Pretty much. But when I started online, we didn't even have Yahoo. There was no Yahoo, much less Google. It was pretty interesting back then.
Wow, good times for sure. But yeah, I'm glad we've moved on and we're in better. And I'm probably in 20 years we're going to look back to where we are today and go, yeah, you were working with crap too. So
well, yeah, you actually had to use a keyboard. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, who knows where technology changes so fast and who knows where we're going to be. But could you share a couple of tips for the listeners? Some of these, the listeners are kind of new entrepreneurs or, just thinking about, jumping into the game, entrepreneurs, and they may struggle with marketing. What are a couple of tips you can offer them?
Well, I'll tell you one around sort of marketing and operations, which is that the most important word in business is no. Especially when you're first starting out, the tendency is to say, yeah, I'll do that. I'm sure I'll do that because you need the money, right? You're like, I need opportunities. And you just kind of say yes to everything, even if you know it's not exactly what you want to do or really what your capabilities are. You're like, I'll figure it out. I'll fake it till I make it. And that seems like a real good idea, but all that does is delay your focus and delay sort of building of categorical expertise. And so even though it's hard to do when you got to find a way to pay your bills, you're much better off turning away things that are not really right for you, and saying no and working on the things that kind of get you in your lane so that you can execute on those things over and over and over and over. So I really believe that if you're any good at all, having lots of opportunities is going to be a given. You're always going to have opportunities. It's saying no to the ones that aren't right is what separates good entrepreneurs from great entrepreneurs. And I've started 5 companies myself, and I've invested in another 25 or 30. So I've been down that road a few times.
Wow. So it sounds like, people really need to have that clear vision of where they're going and how to get there.
Yes and no, Tim, because sometimes you don't have a clear vision when you start, but you definitely have a clear vision of what it's not. You know what I mean? So you may not know exactly what it is, but you know what it's not. And sometimes people don't follow that, even though they know in their heart of hearts, like, this is not really the kind of work I want to do. This is not really the kind of project I want to take, but they do it anyway because they feel like, well, some project is better than no project. And economically, in that short period of time, that's true. But long term, it's not true, because you're spending your time and your energy on something that is not what you ultimately want to do over the long haul.
And I can imagine people going, "Oh, I never thought about this kind of opportunity. Maybe I should jump into this. Maybe this is lucrative. Maybe." And then before they know it, they've done a 180 and they're heading in the wrong direction.
Or you're doing a bunch of different things that aren't related, right? And so now you're spread super thin, and now you're definitely that kind of jack of all trades, master of none, which is a difficult way to market your business, because people want to know what you're the best at, right? They don't want to know all the things that you're pretty good at, because who wants to hire somebody who's pretty good, right? That's why when you hire an electrician, they don't say, yeah, I'm an electrician and I also do furniture, and I also do personal chef services, and I also babysit, and I also do pest control, right? They don't do that. Like, electricians do electrician stuff. And the same thing is true for
I have to disagree, right? Jay. I was in Costa Rica. No, it was Nicaragua. And the taxi driver that we had, no joke, we were talking to him, and he said, "Oh, I've only got about another hour or two of driving, then I have to go back to my practice." And we said, "Practice? What are you practicing?" He said, "Oh, I'm a dentist."
Nice.
He's a dentist and a taxi driver.
Well, it tells you that maybe the dental profession isn't quite as lucrative there as it is in America, I guess, huh?
But no, on average, for the most 99.9% of the time, you don't want somebody who kind of does all these different things. You want someone who's a specialist for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But and what about when it comes to maybe online marketing, and everybody's talking about social media, and I know that your company helps really big corporations, and what's something that the small guys can do to help them kind of get going?
Well, I think one of the things it's important to remember is that we trust people twice as much as we trust organizations, right? Nielsen's done a lot of research on that we trust people twice as much as we trust organizations or companies. And one of the tendencies when you're a small company, an entrepreneur, a startup, is to try and make yourself seem bigger than you are, to say, well, you're using we a lot and having stock photography of a bunch of people, even though it's just you. And you're just trying to kind of puff out your chest a little bit, because you feel like, well, if people know that it's just me or me and this other person, then they're not going to hire us because we don't have that reputation. Well, the reality is that trust is at the personal level. And so when you're doing marketing, especially in social media, it really is about people, not logos. And the more you can communicate at a personal level, the more effective and relevant and powerful those communications will be. So resist the temptation to always spin it like a company, and do what you really know in your heart, which is communicate as an individual. The thing about social media is, in particular, right, is that we want to use it to connect with one another. I mean, nobody in the history of social media has ever said, "Hey, Tim, what my favorite thing is about social media? Companies participating."
Right.
Like, nobody says that, right? They want to use it to connect to individuals. And so that's not to say you're not going to have a company social media account. Of course you are. But even inside that construct, being as personal and as human as you can actually gets you farther than you might expect.
Well, I'd love that tip, because they've got those iStock photos out there, and you're putting people, 20 people in a boardroom that have the really nicely dressed, and so you're trying to present the smoke and mirrors image, and so people just aren't buying that. So you say just be you, be yourself, and that's who they want to do business with.
Yep.
Awesome. Now, when did you first realize that you wanted to be an entrepreneur and that this was your calling?
Oh, good question. I think it was kind of beaten into me, at a young age. My father was self-employed. My grandfather was, my great-grandfather, for 6 or 7 generations back, people in my family were self-employed. And so it was always sort of assumed that was the best and highest calling. So I wanted to do it, from the time I was a little tiny kid. In fact, I had a babysitting service that I started called Care Bears Babysitting. It was pretty great. That was my first entrepreneurial venture. And then sold fake IDs in college. That was an entrepreneurial venture. And then once I got out of school, I worked for some companies for a while until I kind of got the got the nerve together to start my own thing. And I did it later than I thought I would, partially because I got some pretty good jobs young. And so I was like, well, geez, I'm making pretty good money here. Do I really want to walk away from that and start my own thing? And eventually I did. But I just, it had been my plan forever. I just finally kind of got the courage to do it.
Gotcha. And it's hard to get away from that society, even if you have family members who are entrepreneurs. Society still has that pull of, get a good education and go get a good job and then get into debt.
Or why would you leave a good job to start something on your own? Like, why would you take that risk? I mean, I think that's still part of the issue people have today. And that's why I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs who start as entrepreneurs are actually more successful than people who go the other way, right? Who have a corporate job and then leave to start something entrepreneurial. I think people who are entrepreneurs from the beginning sometimes have an easier path because they don't have that kind of golden handcuffs societal pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always that lure of kind of pulling you back into the corporate world.
Yeah, of course. And look, and for some people, that's fine. Like I know tons and tons and tons of people who have taken the entrepreneurial leap. In fact, among the people who have worked for me across my several companies that I've owned, I think 17 of them have started their own companies and they're still in business today. And so I know how this works, but for some people, it's just not right? They go down that path and they want to start their own entrepreneurial thing, but ultimately it's just not for them. It's too much risk. It's too much uncertainty. It's too stressful, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person or a lesser person. The entrepreneurial self-employed life ain't for everybody. It's not you're better or worse. It's just different.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't have to be, let's pick a side or are you an entrepreneur and it's us against the world who has jobs, or you're on the job side and those entrepreneurs are nuts. They need to be locked up because they're running the streets thinking they're going to sell fake stuff. So it's there's dignity in everything, all kinds of work, whether you're working for yourself or whether you're a janitor working for someone cleaning the restroom. There's dignity in everything.
Yep. And there's, and there's definitely sometimes reasons why people want to keep a job, even though they have the entrepreneurial bug. In previous years before the Affordable Care Act, it was, hey, I want to keep my health insurance because somebody in my family's got a pre-existing condition. I mean, things like that can actually dictate whether or not you're able to become an entrepreneur. So sometimes there's a bigger story there.
For sure. Well, let's move into the dig round. And this is where I'm going to ask you 3 quick questions and you can just reply as fast as you can.
Okay.
What keeps you motivated?
I really love helping people. I think I've always been that way. And knowing that every day, whether it's a blog post or a podcast or a speech or a consulting project, I'm spending time making somebody's business better. I love it. I want to do it forever. I would do this job for free. I'm glad I don't have to, but I would do it for free. There you go. Jay says he's going to work for free. I would do it for free. All new clients, come on in. It's all free. Which is why we run this business, not based on money, right? The money works great, and the company's fast growing, has been successful for a long time. But sure. But we always feel like, look, if our mission statement is to be the most trusted provider of marketing advice in America. It's not the most successful. It's not the biggest. It's not the best. It's the most trusted, because if you can deliver on that, the money will take care of itself. Yeah, well, it shows how passionate you are about what you do, and in that statement that you made that I would do it for free is key, because anybody who is doing something that they truly love, they always say, I would do this for free. I'm so passionate about it, I would do it for free, and that's how you're on the right route. So that's awesome. Yeah, now, who do you look up to as a business leader? Oh, so many amazing business leaders. My friend Rory Vaden is a fantastic business leader, incredibly smart, has a great book that I really recommend to all entrepreneurs called Procrastinate on Purpose. It's all about time management and how to get more out of your day by thinking differently about your time and your delegation. It's a terrific book. Rory's great. I have so many friends and colleagues. Scott McCain, who's a legendary public speaker, has been a terrific mentor to me. Mitch Joel, who's a brilliant digital marketer in Montreal, Canada. I've been fortunate to spend a lot of time with Gary Vaynerchuk over the years, who's always inspirational and keeps people motivated. So there's dozens and dozens and dozens of people that I look up to. Now, is Gary as wound up as he presents himself on his videos? No, he's not as wound up in the real world as he is in the videos, but he's not ever chill. So
He's got so much energy and he's just so outgoing. And I know he has such a huge following, and I also follow him, and yeah, I'm just motivated. I just get pumped just watching him. If I kind of feel low on energy, I'll just, listen to his podcast or pull up a YouTube video, and just, man, it just resonates over
energy
over
matters, right? I mean, energy matters on stage, energy matters on a podcast, energy matters in a blog post, energy matters in a meeting. Maya Angelou, the poet, once said famously, I'll paraphrase here, people may not remember the words that you wrote, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that's what energy does. Energy is a conduit to feeling. And so it doesn't even matter if you're saying something ridiculous. If you say it with a degree of passion and energy, it will have an impact on whomever you're with, whether it's an audience or a podcast listener or a blog post reader or somebody in a meeting. It makes a big, big difference.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. Now, you have to choose between one of these, street smarts versus book smarts. Which one's for you?
Well, I think today I would say street smarts, especially in marketing. Although my daughter's going to college in the fall, to get book smarts in marketing. So maybe I believe that, but don't actually act upon it. I think the real answer, of course, is both. But if I had to pick one, I would probably say street smart, because you can be very successful without book smarts if you have street smarts. I'm not sure the opposite is true. I'm not sure you can be very successful if you have book smarts and not street smarts.
Love that. Now, you've been doing this for a long time, working for yourself and growing your company. Is that
the part where you say I'm old? Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that.
No. You're not. You said that, not me. No, you know what? You're only as old as you feel, and I'm a real big believer in that. I'm 45, and yeah, some days I feel like I don't have the energy. I have a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I'm 47. I'm with you. And I have an 18-year-old, so I have a different problem.
Well, there you go. See, and that's why I've turned to Red Bull and Monster. I know it's not the healthiest thing.
Sponsor of the podcast.
Maybe they need the Red Bull or Monster. Come on, I'll take you, because I've got you in my refrigerator already. But since you've been doing, the reason I had brought it up that you've been doing it for a while is I'm sure you've encountered a number of stressful situations mentally. Can you talk just briefly about a time when you were just very stressed out? How did you cope and manage?
Yesterday I was in an all-day meeting with a potential client in Chicago. And during the meeting, it was one of those serious, like 8 to 5 deals. And during the meeting, I had my email open, which you probably shouldn't do, but we were kind of on a little bit of a break. And then I had like 4 or 5 kind of emergency company things that I had to look at. And then I get a text from my wife, and we got a whole bunch of problems at the house and a little bit of a disaster. Nobody hurt or anything, but definitely like a what the F is going on here. And all of that came down on me in about a 30-second span, right? I'm on the back end of a long trip, like tired already. I'm like, holy cow. But I have been self-employed and in an environment that is fairly chaotic for a really long time, to the degree that I'm pretty good at pulling myself out of that tailspin, right? That where you're like, I am overwhelmed now and I don't know what to do. And a lot of people, especially those who suffer from anxiety, it kind of folds their umbrella at that point. They're just like, I can't deal. I got to shut her down. And partially just because I've been around it so long, I'm really good now at just kind of letting that wash over me, but just for like 30 seconds or so, right? You just give it half a minute to be like, okay, this is jacked up. And then it's a deep breath, and then it's like immediate triage. And it's, okay, I'm going to rank order these things in my head of priority. I got to do this one first, this one second, this one third, this one fourth. And if you just keep pedaling, right? If you just keep moving and executing and knocking things off the list, then eventually you see the horizon line again. Where people get messed up is when they get overwhelmed, they stop doing anything, right? So the default kind of physiological reaction to being overwhelmed or having anxiety is to shut down. Well, guess what? When you shut down, guess how many things you are taking off your list? Zero things. And so the worst possible thing you can do is get overwhelmed and shut her down. You have to actually give yourself a second to, feel pity or anxiety or stress, and then immediately go into hyper productive mode. It's almost the opposite of how most people handle it.
So it sounds like, you have that initial, oh shit, what just happened? And then you shift your thoughts to, okay, how do I handle it? What is my plan? And then that's your focus. What is the plan, and how do I execute?
if you think about you always are trying to run at like a B level, right? If you think from a letter grade, like you're like your default approach to work in the world is a B. Okay, you're like humming along, B, 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 and then a bunch of stuff happens. You're like, holy shit! Now what do I do? Your emotional state goes down to like a D or an F, and you can only do that for a second. But then what you do is you have to flip the switch and go to A mode, right? So it's not back to where usually you got to go like into full overdrive, because that's how you can kind of get back ahead of whatever's going on.
I think that's very powerful, and I'm glad you shared that, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who struggle with that kind of, those scenarios that come up, and especially new entrepreneurs. When anything kind of small goes bad, it's easy to just say, crap, I don't know if I'm made out for this. I don't know if I'm going to get through this.
I think the best way to handle it like tactically, Tim, is to say, when you feel overwhelmed, you do this. You grab a piece of paper, and I find it more powerful when you actually write it down. Get a piece of paper and you immediately write down the 3 things that you must do in order. The first thing I must do is this. The second thing, don't look at your other to-do list or your calendar, or any other BS that you use to control your time. Just grab a piece of paper. It can be a Post-it note. First thing, second thing, third thing. And that process of forcing you to evaluate everything you're faced with and rank ordering it makes it less overwhelming and more tactical and specific. You're like, oh, I can do those 3 things.
Love that. That is so helpful, and I'm glad you shared that with the listeners. Let's move on into you and your companies and your speaking and all of this that you've done, and have big name clients. Have you got to the point where you were able to kind of sit back in your lazy boy and go, I've made it, I've arrived?
Well, let me answer it this way. I would say that, yeah, I'm at that level, but no, I never do that. So, and maybe the reason why I've quote unquote made it is because I never do that. I find that entrepreneurs who are particularly successful never feel like they're successful, and that's what drives them forward and keeps them climbing the ladder even after they've made it to a number of different rungs. Now, I think there's absolutely a success recipe in that, like never being satisfied. Absolutely makes you a better entrepreneur. I believe that. Doesn't necessarily make you a better human being, though. I would be lying if I told the listeners that I thought it was always good, that I was never satisfied, and that I never took time to smell the roses, and that I never appreciated my own success, whatever that may be. And I don't. I'm not good at that, and I never have been. And it's probably not a great character component ultimately, but by the same token, I feel like it is part of what makes me successful.
Yeah, and part of you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk earlier, and he always talks about wanting
he's the exact same way. He's never satisfied. I mean, that
he's
guy
never satisfied, but he talks about buying the jet.
10x successful compared to me, or 100x, and he's still, he still treats every day like it's his first day in business, and that's definitely one of his success formulas, and I think mine as well. But I don't know that he's as good of a human being as he would be otherwise, and the same is true for me.
Yeah, and he always talks about his big goal is to buy the jets. Buy the jets. He needs like, I don't know, $1 billion or something to be able to buy into the jets.
3 by the time he buys them at this rate, because football fees.
Absolutely. And so I'm thinking that if he ever gets and reaches that level of success, that it's probably going to maybe backfire against him, because he's been working towards that for so long. And then what? Okay, you've got that. Now, how do you go even bigger? You buy 2 teams? Do you buy it? I'm sure he'll probably adjust it.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know, but absolutely, part of it is to never be satisfied, and it's a double-edged sword. It keeps you going forward, but yet it also can, just keep
you always
you,
move the goalpost. You never reach a goal, and right. That is very motivating, but also probably not particularly healthy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jay, we've run out of time, but you've been fantastic. You've brought incredible value to the show and to the listeners. And I just want to give you a moment to tell people where they can find you online. I know you've got some books that you've written. You're a New York Times bestseller. Where can they find you on social media and your website?
So convinceandconvert.com is our main site. We've got 10 blog posts a week, multiple podcasts, daily email newsletter, all things about digital marketing, content, and social media. Convinceandconvert.com. Jaybaer.com is my main speaking site. And then my podcast is called Social Pros. It's all people who do social media for a living, mostly for medium-sized and big brands. We're on episode 270 of Social Pros. That's at socialpros.com. My most recent book is called Hug Your Haters, How to Embrace Complaints and Keep Your Customers, all about how to handle customer service in this crazy modern age. And you can find that book, Hug Your Haters, anywhere that books are bought and sold.
Well, thank you, Jay. And I'm going to meet you one day, and we're going to cook barbecue together.
We're going to do it.
Bring
that's
some
a
of my
promise.
vinegar-based.
Make it happen. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to bring some of my vinegar-based kind of special recipe.
No, not the vinegar sauce. No.
You're saying the vinegar-based sauce sucks, huh?
It's not my favorite, but it's
just not
okay.
your taste.
I understand people.
Well, that's okay. Well, I'll bring it anyway. I'll buy you a beer too.
All right, thanks.
All right, Jay, thank you. I really appreciate your time. You have a great day.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Want more entrepreneurial tips? Go to timlaskus.com.